You want your life to be beautiful. This is natural. This is human. But somewhere along the way you learned a dangerous lie. You learned that beauty exists only in comfort, only in success, only in those moments when everything goes according to plan. And so you have spent years, perhaps decades, trying to eliminate struggle from your life, trying to create a perfect existence where nothing hurts, nothing challenges, nothing breaks. But let me tell you what I have learned in 60 years of practice, in temples quiet and cities loud, in moments of profound peace and moments of unbearable pain. The beauty you seek does not exist despite the struggle. It exists because of it, through it, within it. Today I will share with you an ancient understanding that has been forgotten in our modern world. Not a technique to eliminate your struggles, for that would be another lie, but a way of seeing that transforms the very nature of difficulty itself. A way of meeting your challenges that reveals the extraordinary beauty hidden within them. This is not about positive thinking or finding silver linings. This is about something much deeper, much more true. If you can hear what I am saying, if you can open yourself to this possibility, you may discover that the very struggles you have been trying to escape are the doorway to the beauty you have been seeking all along. In every temple garden you will find the lotus flower. We honor it not because it grows in clear mountain streams, but because it rises from the mud. The deeper the mud, the more beautiful the flower. The lotus does not bloom despite the darkness and the muck. It blooms because of it. The mud is not its enemy. The mud is its source. This is not a metaphor. This is the fundamental truth of how beauty comes into being. Think of the diamond, formed under immense pressure deep in the earth. Think of the pearl, created when an oyster surrounds an irritant, a wound, with layer upon layer of nacre until something luminous emerges. Think of the mountain, carved into breathtaking peaks and valleys by the violence of tectonic forces. Beauty does not arrive fully formed in gentle circumstances. Beauty is born from friction, from pressure, from the grinding and breaking and reforming of things. Your life is no different. Every quality you admire in others, every depth of character you respect, every wisdom you recognize, these things did not come from easy days. They came from struggles met and endured. The person who has never faced fear cannot develop true courage. The person who has never experienced loss cannot know the preciousness of what they have. The person who has never been broken cannot develop the compassion that sees and understands the brokenness in others. We speak of shallow people, and what do we mean? We mean those who have lived only on the surface, who have never been forced to dive deep. We speak of people with depth, and what do we mean? We mean those who have descended into darkness and returned with something true. But here is what you must understand. The struggle itself does not automatically create beauty. Mud is just mud, if no seed is planted there. Pressure is just pressure, if there is no coal to become diamond. The question is not whether you will face struggle. You will. The question is how you will meet it. Will you meet it with resistance and resentment, cursing the universe for your difficulties? Or will you meet it as the lotus meets the mud, as the necessary ground from which something beautiful can grow? This is not about liking your struggles or pretending they do not hurt. Pain is pain. Loss is loss. Difficulty is difficult. But within that difficulty, if you know how to look, if you know how to be with it, there is a potential for transformation that simply does not exist in comfort. The caterpillar does not become a butterfly by resting in sunshine. It becomes a butterfly by dissolving completely in the darkness of the chrysalis. So how do you find this beauty in struggle? How do you transform mud into lotus? The answer is simpler than you think, but more difficult than you imagine. You pay attention. Not the scattered attention you give to your phone, not the anxious attention you give to your worries, but sacred attention, the kind of attention that sees clearly and completely, the kind of attention that does not judge or resist, but simply witnesses what is. When you are in the midst of struggle, your mind wants to do two things. First, it wants to escape. It creates fantasies of how things should be different, how things will be better in the future, how things were better in the past. Second, it wants to make the struggle mean something about you. It tells you that you are weak for struggling, that you are failing, that something is wrong with you. Both of these movements take you away from the actual experience. Both of these movements prevent you from seeing what is really there. Sacred attention does something different. It turns toward the struggle rather than away from it. It asks, what is actually here? Not what should be here, not what I wish were here, but what is actually present in this moment. When you bring this quality of attention to your difficulty, something extraordinary happens. You begin to see details you missed before. You begin to notice the texture of the experience, the subtle changes within it, the moments of ease even within the difficulty. You stop experiencing struggle as one solid block of badness and start seeing it as a complex landscape with valleys and peaks, shadows and light. Let me give you an example. Perhaps you are struggling with loneliness. Your mind tells you a story. You are alone because you are unlovable. You will always be alone. This is unbearable. But if you bring sacred attention to the actual experience, you notice something different. You notice that loneliness is not constant. It comes in waves. You notice that sometimes it feels like a heavy weight in your chest, sometimes like a hollow ache, sometimes like a restless agitation. You notice that it changes when you breathe into it, when you move your body, when you let yourself feel it completely rather than pushing it away. And in this noticing, in this careful attention, the solid wall of loneliness begins to reveal cracks. Through these cracks, light enters. You see that within the loneliness is also a capacity for solitude, for silence, for intimacy with yourself. You see that the ache itself is evidence of your capacity to love, to long for connection. The struggle has not disappeared, but its nature has transformed. It is no longer only suffering. It has become also a teacher, showing you something about the human heart. This is the practice. Again and again, bringing sacred attention to what you would rather avoid, not forcing yourself to like it, not pretending it is not painful, but meeting it with the quality of awareness that sees truly. And in this seeing, beauty emerges. Not because the struggle becomes pleasant, but because you begin to recognize the profound intimacy of being alive, of feeling deeply, of being sensitive enough to be hurt, and strong enough to stay present with that hurt. There is an old teaching. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. You have heard this before, perhaps, but do you understand what it means? It means that difficulty will come, loss will come, sickness will come, aging will come, death will come. This is the first noble truth. This is not pessimism. This is clear seeing. But suffering, the grinding anguish that keeps you awake at night, the despair that colors everything gray, this comes not from the pain itself, but from your resistance to it. Let me show you how this works. When difficulty arrives, your mind immediately says, this should not be happening. I should not have to deal with this. This is unfair. This is wrong. This is unbearable. And with these thoughts, you create a war. On one side is reality as it is. On the other side is you, fighting against reality, insisting it should be different. And this war, this resistance, this is where the deepest suffering lives. Think of a time when you were sick with a fever. The fever itself caused discomfort. But remember the additional layer of suffering that came from your mind. Why did I get sick now? I do not have time for this. I should have been more careful. This is ruining everything. The fever was just the fever. Your resistance to the fever created the real misery. Now imagine if you had met the fever differently. Yes, I am sick. This is unpleasant. I will rest. I will take care of myself. I will let this run its course. The fever would still be there, but the war would end. And in the ending of that war, space opens up. Space to rest, to notice the body's intelligence as it fights the infection, to appreciate the quiet slowness that sickness sometimes brings. This is true for every struggle. When you lose someone you love, the grief is real and necessary and right. But watch how your mind adds to the grief. I should be over this by now. Strong people do not fall apart like this. I will never be happy again. These thoughts create a second layer of suffering on top of the grief itself. They turn natural sorrow into something toxic, something that poisons your days and your nights. But if you can meet the grief without resistance, if you can say yes, this is grief, this is the price of love, this is how the heart honors what it has lost, then the grief can move through you like a wave. Painful, yes, but also clean, also pure, also strangely beautiful in its honesty. The beauty in struggle becomes visible only when you stop fighting the struggle. only when you stop insisting that your life should be different than it is. This is not resignation. Resignation says, nothing matters, why bother? Acceptance says, this is what is, now how shall I meet it? Resignation is passive and defeated. Acceptance is active and dignified. It is the warrior who, facing an opponent too strong to defeat, bows deeply and says, teach me. And in that bow, in that surrender to what is, the opponent becomes the teacher. The struggle becomes the path. The obstacle becomes the way. In Japan, we have an art form called Kintsugi. When a ceramic bowl breaks, we do not throw it away. We repair it with lacquer mixed with gold. We make the cracks visible, beautiful, honored. The repaired bowl is considered more valuable than it was before it broke. Why? Because it has a history. Because it has been broken and made whole again. Because the gold seams tell a story of fragility and resilience, of damage and repair, of imperfection transformed into a kind of perfection that the original, unbroken bowl could never possess. Your life is Kintsugi. Your heart is Kintsugi. Every struggle that has broken you, every loss that has cracked you open, every failure that has shattered your illusions, these are not flaws in your design. These are the golden seams that make you beautiful. These are what make you human, what make you real, what make you capable of wisdom and compassion and depth. Think of the people you admire most. Not the ones who present a perfect image, not the ones who pretend they have never struggled, but the ones who are honest about their wounds. The ones who speak openly about their failures and their fears. The ones whose eyes hold both sadness and joy, who have clearly been through something and emerged on the other side. What you admire in them is not their perfection. What you admire is their wholeness, a wholeness that includes their brokenness. What you admire is the gold in their cracks. But here is what happens. When you break, when you struggle, when you fail, you try to hide it. You feel shame. You think that if people knew about your cracks, they would reject you. They would see you as damaged, as less than, as unworthy. And so you spend enormous energy trying to appear unbroken, trying to seem like you have it all together, trying to match some imagined ideal of what a successful, happy, complete person looks like. This is exhausting, and it is a lie, and everyone around you is doing the same thing, hiding their cracks while envying your apparent wholeness, while you are hiding your cracks and envying theirs. What a tragedy. What a waste. What if you stopped hiding? What if you let people see the gold in your seams? Not in a way that seeks pity or attention, not in a way that makes your wounds your identity, but simply in a way that is honest, that says, yes, I have struggled with this. Yes, I have been broken by that. Yes, I am still learning, still healing, still becoming. When you do this, something miraculous happens. Other people relax around you. They feel safe to be real with you. They stop performing and start connecting. And in this mutual honesty, in this shared acknowledgement that we are all broken and being repaired, that we are all works in progress, true beauty emerges, the beauty of authentic human connection, the beauty of vulnerability met with compassion, the beauty of imperfection, recognized as the very thing that makes us perfect for each other. Your struggles have made you who you are. They have given you empathy for others who struggle. They have stripped away your pretensions and your false certainties. They have forced you to find strength you did not know you had. They have taught you what matters and what does not. Do not curse your cracks. They are where the light gets in. They are where the gold shines through. So how do you live this understanding? How do you walk through your days finding beauty in struggle when the world tells you to eliminate struggle, to optimize it away, to medicate it or manifest it out of existence? Let me offer you some practical wisdom from the path. First, change your relationship to comfort. Comfort is pleasant, yes, but it is not the highest good. If you make comfort your God, you will live in constant fear of discomfort, and this fear will make you small. Instead, see comfort as a resting place, a chance to gather strength before the next challenge. But do not expect to live there permanently. Do not build your house on the shifting sand of circumstances that must always be pleasant. Build your house on the solid ground of your capacity to meet whatever comes. Second, welcome difficulty as a trainer, welcomes a strong opponent. When struggle arrives, your first thought should not be, why is this happening to me? But rather, what is this here to teach me? What strength is this calling me to develop? What illusion is this shattering? What depth is this revealing? This does not mean you seek out struggle or romanticize it. It means that when it comes, as it inevitably will, you recognize it as an opportunity rather than only as a curse. You remember that every quality you admire in yourself and others was forged in fire. You remember the lotus and the mud. Third, practice being present with discomfort in small ways. Do not wait for major struggles to develop this capacity. When you sit in meditation and your back hurts, do not immediately adjust. Stay for a few breaths. Notice the sensation without the story. Notice how it changes, how it is not as solid as your mind claims it is. When you are waiting in line and impatience arises, do not distract yourself with your phone. Feel the impatience. Watch it. See that you can survive this small discomfort. These small practices build the muscle of presence. They teach you that discomfort is not an emergency. They show you that you are larger than your temporary states. Fourth, speak honestly about your struggles with people you trust. Not to complain, not to seek rescue, but to practice showing your gold seams. Notice how this deepens your relationships. Notice how your honesty gives others permission to be honest. Notice how the sharing of struggle creates connection in a way that the sharing of success never can. We bond not over our victories, but over our vulnerabilities. This is the human way. This is how love works. Fifth, create beauty from your struggles. Write about them. Paint them. Make music from them. Turn your pain into something that might help someone else who is suffering. This is the highest form of Kintsugi. This is taking the broken pieces of your experience and crafting something that serves. Every great work of art comes from struggle. Every profound teaching comes from difficulty understood. Do not waste your struggles. Let them make you not only stronger, but also more generous. Let them become medicine you can offer to a wounded world. And finally, remember that finding beauty in struggle does not mean you stop working to reduce unnecessary suffering. It does not mean you become passive in the face of injustice or neglect your responsibility to make things better when you can. It means that even as you work to change what should be changed, you do not lose the capacity to see what is here, now, in this moment, with eyes that can recognize beauty even in broken things. You become like the cherry blossom, beautiful precisely because it is temporary, precious precisely because it will fall. We have walked together through an ancient understanding that beauty does not exist despite struggle, but through it, that your capacity to meet difficulty with presence and acceptance transforms the very nature of that difficulty, that your cracks are not flaws but the places where light enters, where gold can be poured, where your humanity shines most brightly, that resistance to what is creates more suffering than the thing itself, that comfort is not the goal, but rather the capacity to find peace and even beauty in the midst of whatever comes. This is not theory, this is not philosophy to contemplate from a distance. This is a practice, a way of living that must be embodied in each moment. When struggle comes today, and it will come, remember the lotus, remember the Kintsugi bowl, remember that what is breaking you may also be making you, that what is challenging you may also be teaching you, that what seems like an ending may be a beginning in disguise. The world needs this understanding now more than ever. We are drowning in messages that tell us to avoid pain, to eliminate discomfort, to create perfect lives where nothing ever goes wrong. And these messages are making us fragile, making us afraid, making us unable to handle the inevitable difficulties that come with being human. If what I have shared today resonates with you, please like this video, share it with someone who is struggling, someone who needs to hear that their difficulties are not signs of failure, but opportunities for transformation. Leave a comment below telling me about the beauty you have found in your own struggles. Your story may be exactly what someone else needs to hear. And if you have not already, please subscribe to this channel. Together, we can create a community that sees truly, that lives bravely, that finds beauty not only in comfort, but in the full spectrum of human experience. Together, we can make this world a little more honest, a little more compassionate, a little more beautiful. Not by eliminating struggle, but by learning to meet it with open eyes and courageous hearts. Until we meet again, may you walk your path with dignity, may you honor both your wholeness and your brokenness, and may you discover the extraordinary beauty hidden in your ordinary struggles.